Go see your mother. You were only given one. Go see your mother. And you know that you will never have another. Go see your mother. Go see your mom.
Welcome to Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia. This is my mother, Ema. Hey, Ema.
Hey, my little sweetness. And how's my big boy doing today?
Me? I'm doing fine. So I wanted to set the premise, just start talking a little bit, and then you could just dive right in. I figured that's easier to do, okay? Okay.
Yeah, for my feeble mind.
One of the things I noticed, interestingly enough, was when I was a kid and you would come late to pick me up from school, I would be very upset and very livid because I'd be sitting there for 10, 15, 20 minutes doing nothing. Now, Ruthie forgot to pick up Etty's kid 15 minutes too late.
Whoa.
And then it's a 20-minute drive. So in total, it's about 35, 40 minutes she was late.
Ooh.
The kid, totally fine. Didn't notice, didn't realize. You know why? Because he had a phone that was just occupying his time, and he had no idea she came 45 minutes late. So it's an interesting concept to think about of how technology has shifted our perspective on things. Like, for instance, for me, it's like I am terrible when I get lost. But thanks to GPS, like it's very rare that I get lost nowadays.
Oh, God bless that GPS. Because I remember the so-called good old days before the GPS, and boy, you got lost. It was especially dangerous for women.
Yeah,
very dangerous for women because it happened quite a few times where they would stop and ask a man, "Excuse me, do you know?" Then, sure, come here, I'll show you.
Yeah, like, do you have the time? You know, that's an old trick. If you ever in like New York City, if someone asks you for the time, 9 times out of 10, they're not asking for the time. You just
I had that when I was living in New York in my apartment building. There were these boys. They were inside the building that were not. I could tell they were not part of the they didn't live there.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked me for the time, and I smiled and said, "Sorry, I don't have a watch." And they just, I don't know if they were planning something and changed their minds, and they said, "Oh, okay." They just smiled and walked away from me. But my friend, my roommate, had a different experience. The same, in fact, after these boys approached me and walked away, I knocked on the super's door, and his wife was there. He wasn't there, and I told his wife about these boys that were in the building. And I don't think she did anything about it with her. I don't think she cared. But then my roommate later on, she came across these boys, and they actually grabbed her around the neck, and she screamed, and they got scared and ran.
Wow. Yeah, that's again, that's where it's just like, yeah, that took a swift dark turn. I was just trying to keep something light and fun, and you just had to bring up the assault charges that were developed from your roommate.
Boy,
Just trying to make things light and fun. That's what we're trying to do.
But it's funny that you should bring, it's ironic and coincidental that you bring up the idea of the cell phone, because I was listening to one of the conservative talk shows, one of the local conservative talk shows, and evidently they were talking about the idea, especially in elementary school, that kids should not have cell phones in elementary school, especially elementary school.
Yeah.
And they were saying people were calling in who had worked in the the elementary school public system, and saying it was a shame that these kids they're not interacting properly. There's no social interaction. They're just on their phones. They're not talking to each other. Furthermore, there are some educators that are concerned about the fact that the kids are really not learning how to write or communicate effectively, because now everything in the educational system is being done through technology instead of books. And that the some psychologists are saying the experience, the tactile experience of actually touching a book and turning the pages, that this is really good for the mind, that it really helps with the cognitive learning process. But this is not the way that the schools are going. And people, because, you have some
No, it's a real
parents and educators
concern.
very concerned about this.
I mean, it's a real concern. It's nothing like I'm not like dissing that or saying that, oh, you're just being a worrywart, because I mean, I try my best not to expose my kid to screen time right now. Everyone's like, oh, you'll change, you're just gonna give up, you're not gonna do it, you're gonna be so tired one day and you're just not gonna care. I'm like, maybe, but like I really think it's a horrible problem with these kids just glued to their screens. I mean, I understand why Tati was so ticked off when we were watching TV, but that's pennies to the dollar compared to what's going on now.
So true.
It's real dollars.
Because with us, TV was in the house, in the living room or whatever. You know what I mean?
Basement.
It was right, or the basement. And here, the cell phones, you're carrying them with you all the time. They're here
24/7.
But I'll tell you, I have a confession to make. I'm getting addicted to YouTube.
Oh, well, they want you to be addicted, by the way. They do that on purpose. What are you addicted to?
There's just so many interesting things there. Like there's articles of, about scientific discoveries, cold cases, the way that they have solved cold cases lately that were like, committed like 30, 40 years ago, and how they're finally able to find out through, through genetic science, DNA testing, who the real perpetrators were, and through the enhanced technological advancements in a crime investigation. It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
I also have been watching, when I was a kid, I remember the program One Step Beyond. And I used to watch as a kid. Now watching as an adult gives a whole different perspective to it. It's like they were supposed to be stories that supposedly really happened to the people involved, but that are like not quite sci-fi, but something hinging on the paranormal.
So can you give an example? Explain it. Like, what did you notice?
It was one story about this pregnant woman who she kept having this horrible premonition that an airplane was going to crash through their house. And she even, in her premonition, she actually saw the wing and she saw the numbers on the plane. And they lived next to a small private air landing field. When she told her husband about that, she, in her premonition, that she actually saw the numbers and told him the numbers, he says, you know what? He says, to calm you down. First of all, the doctor, this is like 1960. This was made 61, 62. So of course, the male OBGYN passes her office just being a hysterical pregnant female. When women are pregnant, they get hysterical, and you can't really pay too much attention to what they're saying, yada, 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 all the sexist stuff, But when she told her husband about that, she actually saw the numbers very clearly on the wing. He said, you know what? He says, I'm going to go to this private airfield. I'm going to talk to the person in charge, and I'm going to see if there's really a plane with these numbers. So he goes to the airfield, and sure enough, he finds a plane with those numbers. So he decides to approach the supervisor who's in charge of this airfield, and he tells him about his wife and the premonition and that she saw those numbers. So the man kind of says, oh, he says, that plane, he says, let me show you all the parts. He says, it's totally defunct. Look at this. He shows him all the parts taken apart on the table. He says, it can't even fly. We took apart the engine. It's no good. It's not even able to fly. Don't worry about it. And so the guy said, okay. So he goes back home to his wife. He tells her he saw the plane, but it's totally taken apart. Don't worry. So there's one particular night when she's very hysterical. And he goes, you know what? Just to be on the safe side, we'll go to a hotel tonight. We won't sleep here in the house. They go to the hotel. Anyway, so it shows that after he left that later on the supervisor had to take care of something. The supervisor comes back and he sees the plane isn't there. And he comes into the office and his assistant, this young guy, is there. And he says, where's, he asked him where the plane is. He goes, oh, he said, some old guy wanted to impress his wife by buzzing their house. And he was an old pilot from World War II. And he gave me, look at this, $100 to let him fly that plane. And the supervisor almost freaks out. He goes, don't you know that part of that engine was, look at the table. He says, I left a note for you saying, don't let anyone take that plane because here are the parts. And so his assistant says to him, what note? And he looks, the note had fallen on the floor. His assistant didn't even see it. So the plane is in the air. So the supervisor calls the local control tower, and he tells him about the plane. He says, contact that pilot, tell him if there's any trouble with the plane, bail out immediately. And so this man and his wife, they're in the hotel, and the man's sitting by the window, and he hears a plane, and he looks out the window. All of a sudden, he yells at his wife, get out of the room, fast! He grabs his wife, they run out of the room, and the plane comes crashing through the ceiling. But Baruch Hashem, they're okay, and the guy that was flying it is okay because he got the message to bail out. So the narrator of One Step Beyond is, he always gives a commentary at the end of the episode. And he says, pregnant women have special sharpened premonitions, pregnant women's intuition. He says, thank God. He says, nobody was hurt.
Very, very cute. Very, very cute.
Pregnant women with their special
premonitions.
Yes.
So the other thing I want to talk about was noticing that sense of humor that I noticed for myself, that I started having a different sense of humor that I had when I was in my early 20s.
Uh-huh.
And how I'm shifting toward different senses of humor, of different senses of things that make me laugh. And
thank God you do, because I remember your X-rated humor as a young man.
Well, I'm just saying, has it ever occurred to you as well?
X-rated humor?
No,
What?
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, generally speaking.
Yes.
Have you had a shift in humor interest from the ages of 20, 30, 40, etc.?
It's a really good question. I got to think about that one for a minute. Shift in humor.
Because I'll be honest with you, I remember a joke I told you guys at the dinner table, and Tati thought it was the funniest thing ever, and you just were shaking your head. You had a little grin on you. You thought it was funny.
You want to tell the joke? Or is it appropriate?
It's an X-rated joke, so if listeners, if you don't want to hear it, you don't have to.
Okay, listeners, warning.
Warning, right?
Warning, those people who have sensitive ears might want to shut off now.
This just gives an example of how the dynamics in our family were and are when it comes to speaking your mind and talking freely. I told this at a dinner table. I said, hey, Todd, want to hear a joke? He said, sure. I said, what's the difference between a wife and a vacuum cleaner? And he says, yeah. He says, what? I said, a vacuum cleaner still sucks after 5 years. And then he was just cracking up. He was just I could imagine his face. He was trying to not to laugh, but he couldn't stop himself from just grinning like crazy.
X-rated humor is a very male thing,
I guess.
I mean, you will get some women that are kind. It's women. It's the age of women's liberation, so you will get some women that But the majority of women, I think, be entertained by something in the R-rated, or humor that's kind of hints at things. But a graphic X-rated joke, I think most women would just go, "Oh, that's so stupid."
So I guess so then that's back to what I was saying before, and about humor and different things shifting or changing. Because
I'll tell you the truth, I don't think my sense of humor has changed since my early 20s. As a teenager, of course, teenagers, you know what I mean? Teenagers,
Well, what would make you
Yes.
laugh at when you were a teenager?
Actually, it still does. Like the type of jokes that focus in on real like family life. Like when I remember watching Bill Cosby when he first came on the scene, the stories that he would tell, these were actual stories that happened to him growing up in his neighborhood
Mhm.
with his parents and his brothers. I remember just sitting there laughing and laughing. And there was this one story he was telling, which was really funny, about he and his brother. The parents put them to bed, and they're not getting to sleep, and the conversation between him and his brother, and how it was the conversation was escalating in emotion, and the father coming into the room a couple times. Okay, get out of the bed, you two. And my mother was laughing. We were both laughing. And saying, my mother said that anybody that has siblings would really appreciate these jokes and this humor. And I remember one of the things that the older brother says to the younger brother. He says, "You are not really my brother." And the younger brother goes, "No." He goes, "Yes." He says, "You were found in a garbage can, and the policeman brought you to daddy because he heard he was kind." And the younger brother starts like crying and crying. And the father comes into the bedroom. "Okay, get out of bed, boys. What's going on? Why aren't you asleep?" And the younger brother's going, he's crying. He says, "Told me." He said that I was adopted. And the policeman found me in a garbage can. My my sister used to tell me that too. And to make matters worse, everyone in my family both my sisters had black hair, and I had blondish hair. So that's one of the things. Well, you don't look like us.
What lies would you tell? What's it called? What lies would you tell
My younger sister.
your younger sister? Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I ever told my younger sister any like lies like that about being adopted or anything. I wouldn't so much tell her lies as I would tease her. Like around dinner time, I remember my mother sending me down the street to one of the neighbors' houses where my sister was playing, and she says, "Bring your sister home." So to get my sister to run home faster, I would start teasing her, and she would scream, and she would run after me to hit me, and I would run faster than she did. Being older, I'd run faster, and she would be behind me, and that's how I got her home faster.
What would you tease her about?
I'm trying to think the typical, yeah.
You can't catch me, kind of thing like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Bad. Look how slow you are.
nothing too imaginative. Do you still have jokes that you remember when you were a teenager that still make you laugh?
Jokes and teenagers still make me laugh. Computer processing, please wait.
Yeah, no problem. I get it.
My friends. Well, I remember when I was in 6th grade.
Yeah.
I was like going through some papers that I had to turn in and organize, and I had them laid out on my desk. And one of the boys, it was a practical joke where they had these fake rubber throw up.
Oh yes, I remember
Real.
those as a kid.
And so I didn't even notice I was in my own world going through these papers, and one of the boys in the class put it right on top of those papers that I was going to turn into the teacher and pretend like I hear him go like that. And I look at the paper and go,
I love it. They're just practical jokes and whatnot. You okay? You all right?
Ay, ay, I don't
Huh?
know what that means. I hear him, going back. Wait.
Yeah, that never worked for me, having a cough and drinking water afterwards. It makes things worse to me.
Hot tea.
A hot tea.
Wow, hot tea works sometimes. I'm trying to think of some jokes I heard as a teenager that made me laugh. Oh, gosh. Oh, yeah, I remember the jokes that we had about Perry Como was a very famous, like, crooner. Like, not, he wasn't a rock and roll singer, but he was a pop singer.
Mm-hmm.
And one of his famous songs was Catch a Falling Star.
Oh, I know that
Catch
song.
a falling star and
Put it in your pocket, never let it fade.
Right. So The joke was, I told this joke to one of my friends, and she actually thought it was funny. Perry Como died the other day. She goes, yeah. I go, yeah, he tried to catch a falling star.
Oh, very cute. Very cute.
that kind of humor.
You okay?
I'm trying to think what else there was. Oh yeah, I remember the joke when I was in high school. There were, of course, the 6-day war jokes, the Israeli jokes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I told any in the program. Yeah, the latest equipment on Arab tanks.
Yeah, reverse or something like that.
Backup lights. Yeah, backup lights.
Yeah.
The Israeli and the Arab that are guarding the border, and they each have dogs.
Oh yeah. It was an alligator just got the nose job.
I'm trying to think what else.
That's fine.
Oh, sometimes we Jewish kids would sometimes tease the Christian kids a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Roses are red, roses are reddish, violets are bluish. If it weren't for Yoshki, we'd all be Jewish.
That's very, very cute.
Or we would very quietly behind their backs sing the song very quietly just so they could hear it. They don't make Jews like Jesus anymore. Yeehaw! Oh, they don't make Jews like Jesus anymore.
That's kind of fucking weird. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I just went to an all boys Jewish day school, so I didn't really have anything like that. No, we would just. What was funny was that like a bunch of boys in like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, the stuff we would talk about, just wild, just wild. And of course, we couldn't like be caught talking about those things. We had to pretend as if we didn't know, because the parents and teachers want to keep their innocence, not ours. And that's what's so funny about like being in middle school, remembering being in middle school. Like, oh my gosh, the stuff that would go through our minds or talk about or say or do. Because everything is like new to you, you know? That's why I got to the point where just like, no, I'm kind of, that's what I was talking, because I was thinking of like some humor or some jokes that I like used to think were funny. And now I'm just like, kind of like, I've seen it 5 million times. I've mentioned it 5 million times. Like, I'm just done. Like, that doesn't entertain me. You know what I mean?
There was there was one joke when I was like preteen, teenage. Where, there was once a farmer that was walking his donkey, and the donkey went and he said, "Quiet, ass." And they walked a little further, and again the donkey goes, and the farmer says, "Quiet, ass." And they walk a little further, and the donkey goes, and he goes, "Quiet, ass." And they walk a little further, and the donkey goes, and he goes, "Quiet, ass." And you keep going on and on and on like this until the person you're telling the joke says to you, "Okay, so what's the punchline?" And you go, "Quiet, ass."
That's actually very funny.
Did you ever hear about the jerk that said? Did you ever hear about the jerk that said no?
No. The one that I kind of heard recently was did you hear about that gay owl? No. All right, never mind. It registered for a little bit. For you listeners, she's laughing, but unfortunately, it's not registering in the
what
audio.
gay?
Oh, I actually ruined the joke.
I know who.
Oh yeah, who? Yeah. Did you find out who was the gay owl? Who? That's how it goes. It's also kind of reminds me of that little that stupid joke. It's from Family Guy, where they travel back in time and they see Winston Churchill, and it's that typical Winston Churchill line where Winston Churchill is sitting there, and this British woman says, "You, Winston Churchill, are drunk," and the whole joke punchline is supposed to be, that you, ma'am, are ugly. Now tomorrow I will be sober, but you will still be ugly. And that's a famous Winston Churchill.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a famous Winston Churchill quote.
Yeah, there was something. There's also something where what was it? He said Lady Astor was very irritated with him. She says, "If I were your wife, I'd poison your tea." And he said, "If you were my wife, I'd gladly drink it."
Yeah. So Family Guy did that joke where they bumped into Winston Churchill, and the lady says, "You, Winston Churchill, are drunk." And then he looks at her and says, "Well, you're a fat bitch." Just like, and then that's whatever.
Well, there was was it? I don't know how true the story is.
Yeah.
But this friend of mine said that he heard he that he heard from some historian that when Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin were at Yalta
Hmm.
on the boat, that Churchill asked the Russian interpreter to please tell Stalin to put out his cigar. No, it's the opposite. Stalin asked the interpreter to tell Churchill to please put out his cigar. And what Churchill answered Stalin came back to Stalin as, "Go ye into the wilderness and bring forth children."
I'm curious if that actually.
Probably want to go get.
Yeah. Go have intercourse with yourself. That's anatomically incorrect. Yeah, that's funny. But like,
that really happened, I don't know. But
who knows? Who really knows?
Should we Google it and see?
It's gonna take too long to really figure out and decipher. It's just not worth my time. Because I wanted to talk about something else as well. I want to talk about disciplining children the way you did it and Tati did it, but
just
also
smack their little hands, man, like my mother-in-law always said.
I understand that, but I
Just
want to know,
smack 'em.
now that we're older, can you tell me a little bit more about the discussions you and Tati would have about us and how to deal with us, like various ones, and how you talk to each other and communicated what you decided to discipline based off of different acts that were done, and you could explain that and go further?
Your father was hardcore corporal punishment.
Oh, I know that.
I was not so happy about that. Sometimes, though, I wasn't able to get to him in time to stop him. Unfortunately, he acted too fast and was bigger than me. But anyway, now there were
Snooze, you
sometimes
lose.
I was actually able to like put on, stop, don't do this, get out of the room, just go calm yourself down. But when it came to eating, I never believed in making food an issue. I put the dinner out on the table and I
Yeah.
just walked away and ignored it. I said, if they're hungry, they'll eat. So your father said to me, no, I want you to have the kids sit at the table. I want you to make sure they eat every bite. So I simply said to him, now your father's sisters
Yeah.
were stunningly beautiful and had
Mhm.
very nice figures. So I
Okay.
simply said to him, well, if I force them to sit at the table and eat and look like my sisters, if I don't, then look like your sisters. That stopped him right away.
You don't want any fat kids.
My apologies to my sisters.
Well, I mean, I it's funny because Ruth and I were also talking about, like, it's health wise, we don't want our kids to be unhealthy, and we got to find ways to do that. The only thing we can do is start working on ourselves.
Yeah,
Which gets very. Yeah, continue.
it happened when the kids were little. What I would do is I'd make a nice big salad, and I would sit down and start to eat it. And the kids would come over and go, "Can I have some of that?" Sure.
Nice.
And that's how they eat. That's how they eat their vegetables, because they would see me eating all these vegetables. Can I have some? Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, like, I'm trying to get more imaginative about what to make for dinner. All that comes to mind is we just have like chicken breasts and some vegetable, chicken breasts and some vegetable, chicken breasts and some vegetable, and it's just like, if not, it's fish, and I bought the wrong fish that just tastes disgusting and smells too
What fish
fishy.
did you buy?
I can go into the refrigerator and find it. I don't know.
Was it tilapia?
Maybe tilapia. I don't know.
Tilapia. I understand tilapia. The tilapias are bottom eaters, and it's the cheapest fish. When I go into a store, I always see tilapia.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with tilapia, I mean, I like fish in general, and I don't mind tilapia, but tilapia has like a certain earthy smell that a lot of people don't like.
Yeah.
Also, carp. Now, carp. I tried carp a few times and I stopped it. Carp is dark and oily.
I haven't seen carp. All I've seen is tuna, salmon, tilapia, and I think that's it.
Well, it should be flounder. Should have flounder or whitefish.
Well, of course, there's whitefish. It goes great for my bagels and lox. Oh, it's
or paddock. Paddock is nice.
Yeah.
The trick to cooking fish is don't overcook it.
Yeah. No, oh, wait.
Usually 350 at about 20 minutes should do it.
No, that's fine. No, I definitely cooking. It's not the issue. It's just, I guess
How
you
about
come
turkey?
home.
How about turkey?
Turkey's just. I know. Turkey is constantly dry. It is constantly dry.
That's another thing. Depends how you cook it too. With turkey, you don't want to overcook it either, and that's basically it. You don't have to cook turkey that long. Just cook it like 450. It depends. Like if it's already cut, if it's not a whole turkey
Yeah.
and it's already cut up. Like I like the dark meat of either turkey or chicken. I like dark meat, and usually I find turkey legs or turkey thighs or turkey legs to be a big bargain and very
They
tasty.
are bargain. They are a bargain.
Yeah.
I just haven't gotten a way to take a crack at
And
them.
what's good, what you can do is with the turkey, like one of your workers suggested, I bought, as a matter of fact, I bought some Malaga wine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I made turkey this week where I put it in a Ziploc. I made turkey legs, put them in the Ziploc bag, poured the Malaga wine over them, then took this container of these Israeli chicken, like chicken spices,
Mm-hmm.
and just dumped the container on it and like shook it up a little bit and put it in the refrigerator and marinated it all day. Then came home, you put it in the oven at about 450 again for about maybe 25 minutes should do it. People have a tendency to cook turkey like 45 minutes, and of course it's going to be
Yeah,
dry
I don't want this
now.
to be a cooking show, Ema, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up and shift to something else. We got like 7 minutes left, and I just don't want to hear you talk about this. I'm sorry. I love you so much. You're the best. I love you so much. You're awesome. Let's try to switch something that's interesting.
That I was listening to the psychologist who was saying that why are cooking shows so popular? Then things dealing with cooking are actually very calming. Recipes, these cooking shows that it helps to calm people down. Watching,
Yeah, because you're visually watching it, not like it's like maybe hearing somebody from NPR talking about cooking shows.
Yeah,
and
except Chef Ramsay when he blows a gasket in the kitchen.
Wait! I'm trying to do let me do an impression of an NPR radio show host giving a cooking show.
Yeah.
Now we're going to dress the chicken very softly. Now, when I was a child, my father used to come home very late and then beat my mother as I stood there shakingly. And then at that point, I remembered the garlic. So sprinkle some garlic over there with some onions. This is brought to you by the National Public Radio Station and listeners like you. Thank you. Give it a shot. All right. Never mind. I tried.
Good. That was good.
Thank you.
It's a very good impersonation of NPR.
At what point did you start realizing you would get like? At what age were the kids where you're like, oh, I am getting mad at you?
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm trying to say is, I guess. Let me rephrase this. And
you getting mad at me or me getting mad at you?
No, I'm realizing as parents, because I see all these parents with all these kids, and they I feel like they give conspiracy theories to their kids, which is like, oh, he's doing that on purpose, or oh, he's just trying to get this for attention, or oh, he's just trying to, and like it's a kid, like, crying some way or bugging the person some way, and the parent probably on like a normal day wouldn't snap like this, but like you haven't had a couple of nights of good sleep, you haven't had so many time to yourself, and your kid's trying to interrupt you as you're trying to have a conversation with adults for the first time in about a week, and you just snap at your kid. You're like what was that moment when you first felt that way as a parent?
Oh gosh. A lot. A lot. Even when you bring the baby home from the hospital and the baby, usually when a baby cries a lot during the night, it's usually gas. It's usually intestinal related. It's usually gas because a baby's digestive system is not fully developed. Like all the enzymes don't usually kick in for like at least the first few months, if not maybe the first couple years. So a lot of that's what explains why a lot of babies can be very colicky, can be very gassy, and they're crying. It's usually gas. And so sometimes you're like, I remember one time calling the nurse midwife in like 2:00 in the morning, wherever I go, I can't take it. This child has cried the entire night. I can't take it. I said, what can I do? She was a wonderful nurse midwife. You can call her, and you can call her 24/7. She'd be happy to help you. And what she said to me, she said, is she kicking her legs? Yes. This is gas. She said, give the baby a bottle of warm water with a little bit of corn syrup in it, so she'll drink it, and take some sort of material like felt that holds heat. Iron it and make sure it's not too hot, but if it's warm to the touch, wrap it right under her belly button. Hold it right under her belly button. And yeah, it did help.
Interesting.
Yeah. But that's it's part of being a parent.
What about us?
There's no such thing as a perfect parent, and we're all human beings, and we have a breaking point. The important thing though is there's one time I got mad at one of your older sisters, and I was really mad at her, and I took a pillow and I was really yelling at her, and as I was yelling, I was punching the pillow. And I felt very badly about the way I yelled at her. So there was a child abuse hotline that parents could call if they felt they were going to lose it, and they had volunteers that would talk you down. They would calm you down. So I called the hotline. I told them what I did. And the man, to my surprise, on the other end of the line said, you did exactly the right thing. You punched the pillow and not the kid. I said, but I was yelling at her so much. Because it's okay.
That's interesting. Yeah, it really is. For listeners out there, yes, help is available. Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline, 1-800-422-4453. 24/7 of English and Spanish and other languages available. That's wow! I didn't know that existed.
And it's important to use it. If you feel you're really gonna lose it, call that number, and they'll be happy to help you.
So my question then is, what about your mother? Did you ever speak to your mother about what she went through as a parent?
No, my mother gave me the typical Jewish mother's curse. Maybe you have a bunch of kids that are just like this. You can see how horrible you are.
Yeah. You told me that as a kid, but I took it in a sense of like, so I act like a good kid, I'm gonna have a good children. So maybe if I act good, it all works out. Like, yeah, I hope kids are gonna be like me. It's easier to handle. I know how to handle myself. I know how to work with myself. Enough therapy and everything else can figure out how to deal with this. It's like that's like yeah, you're gonna have a kid like you, and I'm gonna be fine. But yeah, I think it's also good. I think also people say that a Jewish mother's curse is a hidden blessing.
Yes.
And it's a very important. Right. It's a good, successful blessing. Like I hope it's a curse / blessing where I hope you have kids just like you. They're
going to be healthy. You're going to have kids, and they're going to be healthy.
You're going to be just like you. Hope you're going to grow up, going to be a parent, going to be a kid just like you. And I'm just seeing them grow up slowly. They're starting to see a little bit of personality, a little bit of spunk, a little bit of defiance. It's fine. I'm more than happy to go through it. It's just,
This week, I remember we left the podcast on a cliffhanger, but I don't remember what it was. Do you remember?
I think it had to do with someone's birthday. And then I had this written down. Something new lock birthday. Load birthday? I don't know. Well, either way, I guess we don't have to worry about it because we're almost. Thank you for listening to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. Please comment and subscribe on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, and Instagram. I would greatly appreciate it, and my mother would too.